Welcome to GoCast, your fundamental guide to navigating the ever-evolving world of cybersecurity. I'm your host, Ellsworth Anthony, and I'm thrilled to have you join us for this exciting journey through the digital security world. In today's interconnected society, the protection of our digital assets has become more critical than ever before. From multinational corporations to individuals like you and me, we all face the challenges risks posed by cyber threats. Here at GoSecure, we don't just want to protect you, we also want to equip you with the knowledge, insights, and strategies to safeguard your digital life. Each episode, we'll delve into the latest cybersecurity trends, discuss cutting-edge technologies, and explore real-world examples of cyber attacks and their implications. So let's dive in. My guest today is Dr. Adrian Bergeron, a cybersecurity researcher here at GoSecure. Dr. Bergeron holds a PhD in criminology from the University of Montreal, and her research focuses on the behavior of online attackers. Dr. Bergeron, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
So, over the last few months, you've released a series of blog posts regarding password safety. The first titled, Tell Me Where You Live and I Will Tell You About Your Password, Understanding the Macrosocial Factors Influencing Password Strengths. The second, Secret Sharing in Online Communities, a comparative analysis of offender and non-offender password strategies. And the most recent was Password Nightmare Explained. Can you give us a brief overview of that blog series and its significance on today's digital landscape?
Of course. So password concerns everybody, right? We all live in this managing password nightmare in which we have more than 100 passwords to create, to manage, and to remember. Passwords have been kind of proven unsafe, right? So now we have to deal with multiple authentication factor and a bunch of other solutions that make this whole situation even worse for most non-expert users. So the objective of the blog series was to deepen the knowledge about passwords and passwords creation strategies to try to convey a better and simplified message to non-expert users as to how does it work, why strong passwords are important, and what can we do to improve our situation. In this blog series, and in my work in general, I adopt a pro-user standpoint. So it means that I do not consider the users as being the problem in this situation, but I rather blame the lack of adequate solutions in terms of user-friendly practices.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so if we revert to your first blog, Tell Me Where You Live and I Will Tell You About Your Password, that delves into the macrosocial factors influencing password strength. How do the external factors like culture, demographics, and societal norms impact password creation?
So the studies show that our environment has an impact on our passwords. Okay, so it means that the language we speak, the characteristics of the country we live in, our level of knowledge, and much more have a role to play in our decision making when we create a password. In our study, we show that when the level of education in a country is higher, it increases the chance of the password being stronger.
Makes sense.
We also show that the level of government investment in cybersecurity has an impact on the security of users. So the literature shows that the commitment of a country to fight against online crime is beneficial economically. But our analysis go further, suggesting that this type of investment predict better password strength performance. So yes, cybersecurity investment is important at all levels. And finally, the strongest result of the study was that the number of cybersecurity incidents within a country is associated with password strength. So, which is to say, like the more a country is under attack, the more your country is under attack, the stronger its people's password will be. So it demonstrates the resilience of users when they live in a hostile environment. Let's put it that way.
So going all off script here, so it's interesting that you take this approach to looking at how, I don't think I've ever heard of anybody analyzing passwords in that manner. When you present these type of feedback of what your research has, resulted in. What is the kind of feedback that you get from people? Like, have they taken a step back? Like, oh wow, I didn't really think of that, or
So they are made for people to take a step back, right? Because
yeah,
it's not like I cannot provide actionables for following for the users, right? Because it
right,
is a macrosocial approach. So here the recommendations are more at the government level and the policies level and things like that. So yeah, so every time I presented those results, people
mm-hmm.
were very happy to hear about it. It's very different. It's just another perspective on the problem.
Yeah, and this is why I like doing this with you, because it gets that message out and it gets people thinking about that approach as well. So actually, if we go back to your second blog, the secret sharing in online communities, that one focuses on comparative analysis of offender and non-offender password strategies. Could you shed some light on the key differences between the two groups and the terms of password security practices that are involved in that?
Yes. So first, we must say that most passwords for both group, offender and non-offender, are kind of weak. Okay, everyone is bad at this. However, we notice a slightly higher strength in password for offenders. And
Right.
why is that? We have two hypotheses. Okay, so the first is that individuals who are conscious of the danger and understand how it works and will be more likely to choose better password to protect their own interests, right? So it can be compared to expert versus non-expert. When you know the danger and how it works, you might choose better password. Here we are talking about malicious hacker, so they might know more than a normal users.
For sure.
And the second hypothesis to explain that is that malicious hacker have something to hide, right?
Mm-hmm.
Contrarily to people who create an account for online game, for example. So we might choose different level of password strength according to the information we have to hide. The password for your bank account might be stronger than for your Candy Crush account, although it would be a disaster to lose all your points you made, right? But there's a difference in the level of security that you have.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
So offenders are better.
Yeah, and that's understandable. I mean, even us within the security industry, we obviously tend to be a little bit more diligent in our password. I
Exactly.
think we rotate our passwords a little bit more because we're in it, right? So we understand the factors of not having a good password strength, and it would be
Yeah,
kind of foolish of us to not practice what we preach, right?
exactly.
So in your third blog, the last one you just did, part of that series, is the password nightmare explained. You discussed the risks associated with weak passwords. Could you elaborate on the most common vulnerabilities that hackers exploit?
Sure. So I would like to start by saying the secure storage of your passwords by the organization does not depend on you. Okay, it
Hmm.
depends on this organization that asks you to create a password and then have to store it. So the way they store your password is completely up to them. So we can only hope they do a good job. And even if your passwords are stored securely, so even if they are doing a good job and they are stored securely, they are not they can be victim of a hacker. Of course, it is possible that they they are victim. So the most important thing that you can do on your end is to have a strong password. So if it is like stored securely, you might avoid your password to be uncovered and by having a strong password. And if I have to choose the most important feature that determine a strong password, it will be its length. Right, a
Right.
long password, even if it's simple, will protect you so much more than a short, complicated one. So this is the one thing I would like people to remember about this post.
Okay. Okay. So in your opinion, what are the biggest challenges faced by individuals and organizations when it comes to implementing, effective password security measures?
So the biggest challenges is obviously a motivated hackers. Okay, this is the biggest
Yeah, for sure.
threat. The constant change of techniques to get what they want is almost impossible to follow. Okay, organization might come up with a fabulous and secure idea, but this idea will probably become less secure when the hacker get to it.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no miraculous solution there. So that's why it's the biggest challenge. The evolution of, we have to keep up with all that.
Yeah. Makes sense. Are you familiar with the LinkedIn hack that happened? Like, I think it was like about a year or 2 years ago. I'm sure you're familiar with a hacker was divulged all the passwords of, well, a lot of the members of, I think it was more premium users of LinkedIn members online. And apparently LinkedIn said that they were using hashes for the password. So going back to what you were saying before, sometimes it's not the responsibility solely of the individual, but also the organization, the platform, to enhance password security as well. So in this case, they were saying they were leveraging hashing, right, for the passwords of the LinkedIn members, but yet it was still they were still hacked. There was still a threat actor that was able to take advantage of that and post these identifications and sell them kind of like on the dark web, right? So I know there are hashing records that are kind of like a table that if a threat actor wants to leverage, okay, well, if you have even if your password is weak, like I said, the whole premise is of having that hash to complement the password and strengthening it. But in this particular case, that didn't seem to work. Do you have an opinion on that?
Yes. So I don't know about this particular case, but I can hypothesize why. So of course, like when I say securely stored, it's because they are hashed. So there's a hash value instead of the clear text in the database, right? But there are multiple hash languages. Okay. So and they are there's some that are more easily dehashable or uncoverable, and there are other that are almost impossible to uncover. Okay, so maybe they were using a weak hash language. I don't know about this one, but also even for all the hash language, the thing is we will try to brute force the hash value. Okay, which means I'll try anything. I'll hash any word just to compare the two hashes together and see if I have this hash in the database, I'll be able to just get access to this account.
Yeah, circumvent,
this is how it works. So yes, it's possible, even if it was securely stored. There's a limit that they can do against hackers.
Yeah, because I hear the fact that threat actors can leverage, tables of hashes. Then there's like a rainbow record that you can also leverage to try and bypass some of these, right? And then, of course, there's salting of the hash as well. So there's all these different layers that try to make it more challenging, right, for threat actors to bypass and to strengthen the password. But it seems like with the kind of these algorithms that they're running, and they're automating these type of things that come, and it takes if they're patient enough, they can, over a certain period of time, they'll be able to get through to these passwords. But it's interesting how that can still be leveraged to bypass passwords. So actually, I had a question with regards to that. So do you think that things like multi-factor authentication, so that's regarded as, an effective way to enhance password security? Do you think that that's still something that's valid today? Or I guess it's better than nothing, but in your opinion, do you find that there are better ways to kind of leverage that or use that technology?
That is true, that multi-factor authentication is an important safeguarding for our digital account. So it is an effective way to enhance password security rather than getting access to your account with a simple username and password. MFA requires one or more additional verification factors, which decrease the likelihood of a successful cyber attack. Right? Usually, when the hacker strikes, they will have access to one of your account and not all. So the chances that they also have your authentication app on your cell phone or access to your text message on your cell phone, is exactly like zero. Right.
Right.
But also am I the only one highly annoyed by this by this solution? I mean,
Absolutely not.
I am the only one
No.
who is irritated to get up to another room
Right?
to get my cell phone or
Exactly.
another object for the authentication.
Yeah.
So or sometimes I'm away abroad and I don't have access to my text messages. So
Very good
it's
point.
kind of a nightmare, right? So,
Right.
but MFA is a part of this password nightmare, according to me. However, right now, it is the most secure way of protecting your accounts. So please, even if I understand how annoying it is, turn it on, use it. It's the best we can do right now.
Right. Okay. So speaking of that, so I actually had I had a business in IT, and I was leveraging trying to push, and maybe it was before the time that it was widely would have been accepted, but I was pushing biometric authentication for desktop computers, and we're talking like I think I was looking at this more like in 2009 or so. So there were platforms that you could literally just plug into a computer and it would authenticate via biometric, right? So fingerprint at the time, there was no facial recognition. It was more
Yeah.
fingerprint. Um, so with biometric authentication methods becoming more prevalent today, such as fingerprint and facial, what are the pros and cons of relying maybe solely on just biometric for password security?
So I think biometric authentication is the best solution. Okay, so according to me, not necessarily according to all
I
experts.
agree.
Uh, but there are, however, two important problems that we can pinpoint. Okay, the
Right.
first one is the reluctance of sharing our personal info, and we're talking about very personal info, right? Like my iris or my fingerprint. Not everyone is comfortable with a big corporation having your iris stored somewhere, right?
Right.
But
Right.
what if we can, like, because they say, I'm sure they say that they tell themselves like, what if we can copy something like that, something as important as our biometrics, right? But there is already solution for that. You surely know about them. When the information is encrypted, sorry, on the user end, it erases this problem, right? Because the corporation of or the organization do not have this information. It's encrypted on my end, and when I prove that I have it, like, it opens. Okay, so it so this way it becomes a lot more secure just by doing this. However, if all organizations use this method in different ways, how would non-expert would know if this is securely encrypted on our end instead of on the other end? You know what I mean? It becomes puzzles for non-experts, even if so the best solution would be that we all have the same all the organization would have the same way of connecting or using the same type of software, you know what I mean? So
Technology.
if
Yeah.
so we use always the same one, and we know that this one is secure, and so
Okay.
so this is the first problem, but with the solution. And the second problem would be with the biometrics, there will always be some exceptions. So if we use the iris, for example, what about someone missing one eye? I mean, it happens,
I shouldn't.
or
Yeah.
if we use
Yeah.
fingerprint, what about if you burn your finger and it
True.
alters your fingerprint, and then
True.
you cannot have access to anything,
Yeah.
so it's an ideal solution, but never perfect. Yeah.
I agree with that because I could actually speak to that because I had put on biometric door locks on, just as an example, on my front door, right? So front and back door, and it works perfectly for me. But my wife doesn't have, like, it's her prints are not really defined, so it would never pick up her print. So it would always give her an error message. Try different versions, different technology, and it was the same thing. So that raises a good point. Some people just don't have an imprint, or in some cases, as we see something in AI today, there's some also biases and also in race too, right? So whereas some people that are maybe darker skinned, it doesn't scan people properly, right? So these are technologies that are, yes, they're there, but they still need to be worked on so that it encompasses a greater population. So another thing is with the rise of password managers, some argue that having a strong master password is now more critical than ever, which actually makes a lot of sense. But what advice would you give to individuals regarding the creation and management of their master password?
So there's something there, like password manager right now is a big debate among our research team. Okay,
Yes,
so
we
I am giving
debated, yes.
my opinion right now, so not the opinion of my colleagues. I think that password managers are a tolerable solution, okay, and not
not the end all.
Yes.
Right.
So it helps manage a high quantity of strong passwords. You're right. And companies should use that for sure, like right now. But this only exists in the meantime of a better solution, like a passwordless environment. So it has a lot of cons. And I am writing a blog right now about all the cons of password manager. So I'll invite you in the next
absolutely
to read it if you want my opinion on it.
Sure.
But so but your question was more about how can we choose one good password, and I still have advice on this. So first, the longest the better, right? Okay, this is the one feature that I would recommend. And let's say you think differently, okay, and do not choose one word. It's too easy to crack. But what if you use a phrase, a sentence, right? A passphrase that we use. So it becomes very long. Just one word, like let's say, my brother stole the 3 gummy bears. This is my example that I give in all my conferences. Okay, so it's very long. It's like 43 character long. There's symbol, there's a number, like everything is there because the spaces are counts as symbols. So it's very long and it's basically uncrackable unless it's like the sentence that you say every day. It's like your motto or something like that. Well, now I can guess it, but if it's a sentence that you don't use very often, it's the best password you can have, right? Because it has everything a strong password has. So this is what I would recommend. And if not, you can also, because there's some website that requires you to have like smaller password for a reason that I don't understand. It's not for security reason for sure. And in those cases, you might use like a list of words. And it can be like the name of all your family member in the order that you think. It's almost impossible to crack also because, it's the chances that they get all the position of the letters in order is like, if it's long, it's impossible. So this is my recommendation for.
Okay. And just also to reference I'm not sure which blog it is, but you actually show a chart of the actual length of the password and the time it would take to actually crack that password. So if it's something like, I think like 13 or 14 characters, we're talking like thousands of years or something like that, if I remember. So so the longer, the better. And with different characters, right? So not just numbers, right? Because that would be pretty easy, right? To crack.
Yes.
Right. So if it has to be a combination,
easier to crack. Yeah. But still they have to know that you are only using numbers. You know what I mean? So like if they don't know that, you still protected. So we have to make the hackers believe that we use all the different character. But still it's more, secure. But this table, I just want to precise that this table evolve each year because each year our computers getting better.
That's it. Exactly.
The hackers have better tools and everything. So in I don't know what year, 2012, let's say, it was recommended to have like 7 characters or more, and now we are like at 14. So
14.
make them long and you'll last a couple of years.
Well, I mean, with the developments around quantum computing too, when we get to that level, we're going to have a whole slew of different problems, right? because that's going to be able to crack a lot of different things, right?
Yes,
But
yes.
anyways,
So
that's
we will
that's a
not be
conversation.
protected.
Yeah, that's a conversation for another time.
Yes.
A few more questions for you. Have you ever come across innovative or unique approaches to password security during your research? Any examples maybe you might that stand out to you?
So I'll guess I'll just like repeat what I just said on the thing that I think that is innovating is like using passphrase. This is like the thing
Okay.
that we have to do. And then I said list of words. And one important advice I can give to people who are using the same simple password on all your accounts. Let's say you're a beginner, right? And you do not wish to use a password manager for your reasons. Well, I would advise to have three different passphrase or three different list of words. Okay, one for your account with highly sensitive information, like your bank or the government website. The second for your account with like your credit card, like on Amazon or Apple. And the third one for your less important accounts. Those accounts are the most likely to be insecurely stored and uncovered. So make sure to change this password or this passphrase on all your account if the organization suffer from a data leak. And those three levels will increase your protection by like 300% instead of risking everything with your one weak password, right? So this is what I would say to beginner. And then
Okay.
to more advanced, like try to have passphrase that are different for each. That's the best. But one uncrackable password will help you like not having so much.
So much, right? And in your opinion, do you think people take their password creation? I'm talking people that are not in the industry, right? So we're talking about offenders, people that are in the cybersecurity industry. We're talking people that are going like that don't really consider that on a regular basis. Do you think that they're considering in what you've seen? Do you see them taking it more seriously, the creation of their passwords, or do you think it's still a big challenge
It's
with the general
definitely
public?
a big challenge. People in the field will feel that they have to have strong passwords, and
Right.
the non-expert or normal people that we are trying to protect, right? Like my mother will be in
Right.
this group,
Right.
and
Yeah.
she doesn't understand why. Like the thing that we heard we hear a lot is that people say, well, I don't have nothing to hide
To
or to
hide.
like to
Yeah.
rob to steal,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So they don't feel unsafe, like but yeah, it gives me the idea to make a blog post on everything that you risk by being in a data breach,
Correct.
maybe. So I think we did not do a good job at convincing them that it's important
I
to
don't
have
think
this.
it's talked about enough, right? Because, like you said, but these are also the same. Maybe I will say like maybe more or less non-technical people that still do their banking online, right? It's rare that people really go to
Yes.
the bank anymore, right? They do a lot of their banking online.
Mm-hmm.
How strong is that password, right? Getting into their accounts, and the fact that they're leveraging browsers and the cookies are there, and that they don't. Most of the times, people don't really have a real security, uh, platform on their personal computer. They're leveraging maybe something free or whatever the case may be, right? I don't find they take it seriously enough. So then when they go onto these different platforms and they're putting their username and password on, so you have to put your username and password on everything, right? Online. So, but more specifically around the older generation, of them leveraging, still doing their banking online and FaceTime, Facebook, and all the other social platforms that they leverage. I don't think they realize how they're leaving themselves vulnerable to an attack when they like you said, like they think like, oh, I got nothing to hide. So that kind of scares me, because they're the first ones to get taken advantage of, right?
Yeah.
When something like that happens. So I don't know what we need to do to change the messaging around that. Where do where do we go to boast that from the top of the hills to say like, hey, you need to protect yourselves more, because we hear more and more every time now. You have it from phishing, from social engineering. You always see it on your phone as well. You're getting all these calls and text messages. The texts are the worst, by the way, now, where you get these texts and it's like, hey, or especially because so many people are getting packages getting at home, like, hey, we tried to deliver this, click on this link and put in your password and all that. So I'm like, oh my God, wow, that's not good. And people obviously believe it, right? Because they constantly buy stuff online.
Yes, it's they are good at it. They are very good at inventing new ways.
Yeah.
So we cannot ask everyone to be an expert to recognize those things. We have to be better at protecting them, I think.
So I think the best way is, I guess, having conversations like this and then putting it out for people to absorb, right?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So listen, Adrian, Dr. Adrian, thank you so much for doing this. I think there was a lot of takeaway from this conversation. So I know we'll be obviously looking at diligently at your next blog post, but if you're open to this, we can also have a conversation about your next subject matter. But for those listening, I will also post the links to the blog post series that Dr. Andréanne Bergeron has published on passwords. So you'll see that in links below as well. So Dr. Adrian, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you so much.
Please hang up and try again.